I say dreams are the language of the soul. That is the language you are learning, in my opinion. It's the soul and the subconscious together. And so it's literally that. It's just a language. And the more you learn to speak, the more you hear it, and the more it communicates with you.
Hello and welcome to Holistic Circle Podcast, Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We are reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love, and joy. And I'm very happy to have here today with me from Florida, Athena Laz. Hello and welcome, Athena.
Hi, Philip. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure, that's for sure today. Wonderful. I like to start the podcast with everybody knows you. You've been published books, you're all around, but nevertheless, I hope we'll find some new people. And I would love to, with a small introduction, give us a little bit of a background what you do, and then we'll take it from there.
Great. Thank you. I am a dream teacher and an author. I've written a book called The Alchemy of Your Dreams, which is translated into many languages worldwide. And I have another book called The Deliberate Dreamer's Journal. And I have a new book coming out in September 2025 and an oracle deck coming out in July. And my work is all about taking mysticism and psychology and blending it together. And I do that through the pathway of dreams, but also through the psychology of the mind. And then the new books will be on intuition and how we can all tap into that kind of innate power that we have. So I teach people how to access those realms for themselves and also how to lucid dream.
Wow. I'm so tempted now, getting a little sneak peek on intuition. But that had to happen, you know. It sounds really interesting, and I know that a lot of people dreams have a very strong part of their life, and also depending on the culture, I'm sure you're aware that some countries people are still very strongly connected. You know, Greece comes to mind, Spain, plus that what comes to mind immediately. So some, and Italy as well, right? So
Right.
some people more in connection with dreams, while others maybe not so much. Can we maybe start on some very basic level before we go more into the details of your work and all of that? Is just to take it on a simple path with this.
Right.
Uh, Sorry, I so forced myself not to tell you that I hardly ever remember my dreams. I just told myself, do not start the podcast with this
With it.
question. And now it had to come out.
Can I tell you a great question? Because I feel like a lot of people who find my work are often people who don't remember their dreams. And so, something that's very helpful to know about dreaming is that actually we all dream. We dream every single night, whether we remember it or not, on waking. And like you were saying, some cultures are inherently more linked to their dreams than others at the moment in our modern world, right? And it's very easy to become disconnected from your dream world, sort of unintentionally. Or if you have, a lot of people that I work with, if they're under a lot of work pressure or their lives are very busy or they have lots of children and they just feel very physically tired when they get into bed. Sometimes that makes it really difficult to remember dreaming because the priority is just kind of, I got to go to bed, I got to fall asleep. That's it. And so, one of the easiest things that you can do to remember your dreams is just to think about the last dream that you do remember and try and replay that just before you fall asleep. You
Wow.
just kind of imagine it in your mind and you do that as many times as necessary. And most people have good success with that. And then another very helpful thing to do can just be to like have an intention before you fall asleep. You literally can just say to yourself, I will remember at least one dream this week, or on waking is probably a better word to use. And that usually also kicks it into gear because the mind, the minute you start to focus and say, this is something that I want to do, the mind naturally adapts to that. And so dreaming is very easy in that way to retrieve back or to reconnect.
Wow. I'm so glad I asked this question.
Me too.
And I was so like, please don't do it. But this was so nice what you said right now and so helpful because I'm married to a woman which is from like a South country in Europe. And,
Okay.
they're all basically witches in a very lovely way. And, it's the dream so intensively and they remember it so strong. And they
Right.
always have a grandmother who has like 1,000-year-old book. Well, what the dreams mean. And in the morning, they're calling each other, this is what I dreamed. And then the
It's
grandmother
great.
is going through the book. And then I'm waking up like, no, nothing.
You know, I feel like also it's kind of a pathway that some people feel more strongly about and other people don't. And I love that. I love that they still link to it and the grandmother's the person they phone. Isn't that good? I wish more people would be like that. That's a great thing.
But I'm with you as I see how strong some people are connected to dreams, but a lot of people who are connected to their body are definitely connected to the dream. Something's happening, something's working. And just
Right.
because it's not been my path yet, I have a lot of respect for it because
Sure.
it is a door to the subconscious. It's a door to inner minds, inner conflict.
Right.
I'm always kind of like want to joke that I'm just so pure and so happy. There's nothing to dream about.
Right? But this is the thing as well for there's so many pathways to the subconscious, there's so many pathways to spirit or non-physical or the unseen, right? And dreaming is one pathway. Meditation is another pathway, right? We are given the gift of many, many pathways. And so for people who are listening to this, who may be interested in dreaming, or maybe they're like you and they haven't had a dream in a long time, it's just a decision to walk a specific path and to allow it to be easy. And the more you do, the more I have found that I teach people dream work and in my own life, the more that you begin to connect with dreams, not just on a psychological level, but on a consciousness level, you start to see that there is actually no separation between waking life and dreaming. And that's the space we think that. Because our everyday experience is there. But the more you do this work, you realize it's really just perception. And so there's so many pathways to it,
I wanted to ask you, you almost were starting to give the answer before I gave the question. So let me quick ask the question.
So
So very clever of me. Now, it's just tell me very straight, if we're anyway already talking about me,
mm,
what could be the benefits for me if I would, as you do, go for a program, open myself up to the dreaming world? And I, by the way, don't want to share too much, but I think I
oh,
closed myself intentionally, actually, from the dreaming path when I was quite young. So I can share it, but I don't need to. It's wasting your time. But basically, what could be my benefits? What could I gain from reconnecting with my dreaming? What would I get?
you get a huge part of yourself back, and also you can transcend fear through working with dreams, which is very helpful. A lot of people who've had huge insights have happened through dreaming. Like the idea for Google came through a dream. A lot of people who've done there are many, many examples, like the lady who wrote Frankenstein. A lot of musicians receive their work through dreaming. So emotional regulation, creative downloads, connecting with spirit, transcending fears. Dreaming is such a helpful space because if you can lucid dream, you can incubate a dream, you can create a dream, and you can face anything in that space, and you can't be harmed because it's in your inner world. And it's a very empowering space to be in. I think a lot of people who have experiences when they're younger that they don't understand, right? Sometimes when we fall asleep and we go into dreaming, there's that in between passage that you can see things, you can hear things. Children often experience that, and most modern cultures, they don't know what to do with that information. So kids are often very afraid of falling asleep and dreaming because they're so tapped in and they're so open. And so it's easy to shut that down. I guess psychic awareness, a lot of adults, right, will say it's the same thing because it's so kinda for most people,
Overpowering.
right, it's overpowering or the family doesn't know what to do with the information or your friends aren't like that.
The more the conversation goes on, the more I love it. all, I had now a couple of podcasts with psychics.
Okay, great.
And to be very honest, again, I shouldn't say that, but I was like, I'm a very serious meditation person, like, 30 years, just straight the line. And
That's
then I
me.
want to interview a psychic, but then I'm thinking, like, is it serious? Is it not? I'm open for it. I'm completely open for everything, but I'm kind of like, just let's see. Were the
Right,
most serious conversations I had so far in this podcast. It was very determined people, good people, honest people with a therapeutical approach to it.
right.
And the subconscious that you talk about, that
Yeah,
healing power of the subconscious, I'm saying this out loud. I have been neglecting most probably for greater part of my life because I do
right,
a lot of spiritual work. I do a lot, but these subconscious elements that you work with,
right.
this is something I'm completely not so experienced as maybe one should be.
I think I don't ever feel like anyone has to do anything, but I think if it's an interest that comes up for you now, then it's well worth exploring. And I think it's like what you're saying before. In any industry, you can have good teachers and you can have bad teachers. And I think that when it comes to things like psychic development or working with the subconscious or working with dreaming, or even meditation, you need people who have gone to the places where you're trying to get to, right? And those people can save you time and they can save you effort because that's their skill set, right? And at the same time, there's a lot of people that are saying, especially nowadays, because it's so easy to talk about things where everyone is kind of good, like, oh, I'm in this and I'm in that, but they don't always necessarily have the experience behind them. And I think that sometimes the right thing comes up at the right time, So if you're a proficient meditator, you're actually in many ways dealing with the subconscious because you're seeing what comes up, right? You have an image that comes up whilst you're meditating. I don't know what kind of meditation you do, but you do kind of have to bring yourself back to center, right? So you're like, oh, okay, there's a thought, let it go, whatever it is. But the stuff that naturally arises tends to come from the interior world, as well as seeing things from non-physical. So I think that's the balance of learning, like, well, this is coming from inside of me, and and then when it's higher in information, you can feel it. There's like a resonance that comes in because, oh, okay, you feel lighter, or the information is kind of has been out of your awareness. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you have this breakthrough. So I think all the pathways kind of get you to the same place. They're just different methods, and they're
I'm going to
different.
say something very bold now and take the risk. But I think that what you do is a hell of a lot more important right now than a lot of other things
Thanks.
because we have formed the world. I mean, meditation, yoga, whatnot. It's
Right.
all there and it's all good. I mean, I'm teaching it for 30 years, right?
Right.
But I think we really lack in our society and children, as you said, or all of us,
Right.
and you said the over communication. Everybody thinks that we are just like having diarrhea coming out, right?
Totally.
But,
Right.
but the truth is, are we really connected to our inner self? Are we really connected to our subconscious? This
Right.
now, maybe you don't like the word magical part. Maybe you don't like it, but
Reminder. Yeah.
it's this kind of a wrong that's with us. There is a voice that wants to talk, that wants to get out,
Right.
and I think we are all quite afraid of it because we don't give him the time or the space. And maybe, as you said, grandmother of my mother, maybe we
Correct.
just don't have the grandmothers anymore,
Right.
can
Sure.
open us that path. So now I start to see what you actually do or
Right.
offer is giving people support for something they need, like a glass of water in the desert, a connect.
Yes, exactly. Right. And I think the part of us, there's so many reasons. I think we're taught to be afraid of that part of ourselves, but also there's kind of like huge responsibility that can come with that. And also, then reality is completely different to what you think it is. I fully think the word magic is a good word, actually, because the
Yeah.
minute you are changing things with your perception, or you have a dream about the future, proven, scientifically proven, right? Well, then what's really happening, right? So you can't say, well, these things aren't happening. Yes, they are happening and they do happen. And how are you showing up to that? And every night when we sleep and dream, we're in direct communication with that part of ourselves and also the higher parts of consciousness, whatever you want to call it, right? The universe, spirit, your dead grandmother, whatever it is, you can be in connection with that when you sleep and dream. The thing is, most people don't prize dreaming because we're taught not to do that, right? So we fall asleep in ways that are very unhelpful. The minute you kind of clean that space up, very much like how, I don't know about you, but like for me, right, when I meditate, I have like a corner in my office. It's got a really nice mat. I sit there every day in the same space in the same way. And it's very helpful because I know when I hit that space, it's time, it's a clean, clear space, right? And that's the purpose for it. And dreaming and sleeping, it's almost the same thing. The bedroom, your bed should almost be like a meditation mat. That's what you're going to go and do. Yes, you need to sleep to restore your body, but on a deeper level, your consciousness is meditating at night in a way, right? So if you begin to treat that space like that, and it's simple, it can really be something simple, like you just don't take your cell phone to bed, you don't scroll before you fall asleep, something really simple like that can change it. And then you can practice it for yourself because you can literally say to yourself, I would like to receive helpful information on this problem that I'm having, and I would like to remember what I dreamed. And you can write that down on a spare piece of paper just before you fall asleep and go to bed. And when you wake up, most of the time, I would say like 8 out of 10 people that I work with, they will have the answer. And the two people that often don't, right? The 20% that maybe don't get the answer, they'll get answers in other ways. They'll see it outside when they're walking, or they'll speak to a friend, or the information will come up in some other way, right? But the connection is being made where you connect to that, you're starting to connect to the deeper part of you that kind of knows things a lot more than the ego mind knows, or the part of us that has to navigate this world. So it's super helpful and it's actually really easy. And it's something we do anyway. We spend a third of our lives sleeping and dreaming. And so it's just this time that we can really use to cultivate positivity actually in our own lives and in the world at large.
And I'll need a moment to process, and I'll ask you some other question because I'm in shock that there is a way of getting answers by really talking to yourself,
Right.
telling I want to find the answer in my sleep. And then after time, when you start to open, it happens. This is a whole, I have a long list of answers. I did not know that they are just lying in my bed. So,
Right?
so
It's so much easier than you thought.
that's I need a moment now. In my mind, I'm making a list of the first things I would like to figure out real quick.
Right.
So this is so amazing because this podcast is giving me so much. We're talking with all kind of rich ways people. And I start to realize that, in the time of the perfect pose on Instagram or yoga pose, which has nothing to do with yoga, and all of this that we are doing right now, these things that magic is for me something that is not fully explained. That's how I use the word magic. That's
Right.
my personal definition.
Right.
If I don't, if I shouldn't fully, or hopefully, as I said, once I really understand it's science,
Yeah,
if I don't, it's still magic.
exactly.
And I've really come to change my direction and think, let's open more magic in our lives again. We know anyway too much. We have too much science, too much certainty. We are so put in boxes and everything and organized to let a level of magic back into our lives, as wonderful and easy and as well known as a dream world. I think that is quite revolutionary, what you say a certain way. But let me ask you a question so I can regroup. Because now, the way I listen to you, I'm a young father, and I now think maybe I have not been talking enough with my daughter about her dreams. Maybe I should in the morning ask for more. Maybe I should not just, smash it away. So
Right.
give a little advice to some wannabe good dad, well, or children, or generally, just tell me a little bit. You anyway gave me so much. What you think children and dreams and parenting, what should we do? What's too much? What's too little? How to approach it?
So I think firstly, it's really great that you want to go there with your daughter, right? I think one of the most helpful things to do is to just listen. In a lot of ancient traditions, they always talk about how if you're going to interpret someone's dream, right? So if your child has a dream, that no matter what the dream is, it should be worked in a way that leaves a good meaning for the dreamer or a good ending for the dreamer. And there's a reason for it because in a lot of the traditions, they will teach us how our words impact our reality, right? So even a nightmare can be spoken in a way that can have benefit for the person who is dreaming it, right? So I always feel like with children, it's just helpful to keep the dream space light, but it's also helpful to address stuff that comes up, right? So if they're having dreams, just really kind of everyday dreams that a lot of time children might have, like they have an anxiety dream, they're being chased, or they're at school and they can't find something, or they're afraid of something, to just very much validate the feelings that they're having. I can hear that that must have been quite frightening for you, or that sounds like a really great dream. Can you remember anything else? And if it's something that needs shifting in terms of the energy of it, then shift it for your child, in my opinion. Shift it in a way so that they feel empowered, that they don't become afraid of sleeping and dreaming, and then that they also feel empowered in their waking life. And so teaching them that in the dream, even if something frightening comes up, they are not going to be harmed or hurt. They can't. And that gives children confidence, right? There's some confidence in that because, well, if I'm having a nightmare, and actually, my experience of it is children are actually very good lucid dreamers. They can recognize when they're dreaming in the dream. And adults often don't know what lucid dreaming is. So they
Whoa,
kind of
whoa,
just
whoa, whoa.
shift it off.
Sorry, I
Right.
need to stop you here because
Sure.
I've been talking to a lot of mediums or people who have the third eye and things like that.
Sure.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now I must ask you, so do you see here some connection level? Because if you know that you're dreaming, that to me sounds like we're going in a totally different roof now.
It is different because you leave it, you're aware of the subconscious, but also you can connect to spirit in dreaming in that space, right? So it is like in mediumship, you connect to spirit, you're awake, right? This is my book that's coming out is on this kind of thing. You're awake, but you're opening your energy so that spirit can come in and you're just matching the frequencies. They match your frequency, you match their frequency, and that's how the communication can happen. In dreaming, that happens, but a lot of time people they don't remember, they're not aware that this is happening, right? They'll kind of remember fragments on waking. They think it's symbolic and sometimes it is. And I talk about this in my book, right? For how people can learn how to differentiate it. It's a lot to go into kind of right now, but there's a way to differentiate the messages. But lucid dreaming is literally like
So I've heard for a moment, I thought that you say that the third eye is like an conscious dreaming, but then you said no, it's turning into frequencies, which is something I understand a lot about
right.
because in meditation. So there is
Okay.
something I quite know what I'm doing. So I understand frequencies,
Okay, great.
tuning into frequencies, but to me it sounded right now a lot that you open the possibility that our third eye could be something like conscious dreaming. Yeah,
Yes.
I misunderstood you or not,
No, you
or
didn't
it's
misunderstand.
complicated.
It's much it's I think I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be. In dreaming, you can recognize that you're dreaming, right? You can attribute that to your third eye or your crown chakra, but that's a whole other conversation. This it can just be something really simple. Say you have a dream and you're in your office and you don't realize you're dreaming, but you're in your office and then all of a sudden you see that there's a parrot sitting on the desk. And a part of you goes, how did that parrot get in the room? And then you go, there can't be a parrot in my office. And then another question goes, oh, maybe I'm dreaming. And then you recognize, oh, okay, I'm dreaming. And that's how you can become awake in the dream. It can happen spontaneously, and then there are methods that you can learn so that you can do it with more intention whilst you're falling asleep. And I teach people how to do this in the book, and the methods are quite easy, right? But really, if we take a step back and we look at it, you're just learning to use your awareness in a different way. It's the same thing. Like if you're practicing a meditation that is aimed at hitting a different type of frequency, you're using your awareness to get to that place. This is the same thing. You're just using your dreams to get to that specific place. And in that place, you can receive a lot of information, right? From yourself, but also the higher part of you, but also from other people, other beings, other non-physical, right? So because you're in this kind of liminal space. So it's a very interesting practice. It just takes discipline.
I'm learning a lot today.
Sh-
I've seen it many times, and I've heard people not as professional or as well
Right.
developed as you explaining it to me, but
Sure.
I had a lot of contact with people who, so to say, have that awakeness uh,
Right.
to see the parrot, as you say, and they can control it no matter what, but they haven't gone as deep as you to make a structure or a system or a knowledge out of it. I mean, that's why you are who you are. But so a
Right.
lot of people have that naturally. It just comes from them.
Yes.
And I always wondered where to place it. But now you put them in a very interesting place, as you said, because I worked so many years to really precisely, I need those frequencies for some higher meditation stuff. That's why
Right.
I need the frequencies, but I don't need get any messages from them because that's not what I've been looking for all my life.
Right.
I need them to tune into certain energy fields. That's what I need, right?
Right.
Uh, and it's also needs practice. It is also hard
Yes.
work, by the
Right.
way. But I don't see anything there because it would distract me completely. That's not what I want, right?
Right. Right.
But now I see that I could have used, or one can use these techniques and these trainings to get the stronger vision that for crown chakra, as you said, is super interesting information. I would have never come to my mind to look at there.
But I think it's exactly what you're saying, though. And I like what you're saying because it really depends on the intention. Not everyone wants to receive messages. You don't have to, right? And also being in the, if I understand it kind of correctly, what you're saying, right? Tapping into that energy field, that in itself is very powerful. And so the benefit is already there. And so this is just like another tool that you can use. And what I like about it is that like meditating can offer you, and there's so many ways to meditate, right? That's the waking day practice that can get you in. And then at night, we also have that. And so I feel so empowered by that because I feel like at all times we can lean into practices that can help us, right? So if we're feeling stressed or something is not working out in the way you can sit on the mat and try and get into a higher frequency. And that changes reality, in my opinion. You can't not change things because you've changed how you are vibrating.
I
Your
hope
energies
so.
come right. So, and I feel like that in itself is so hugely powerful. And then at the same time, dreaming is also just something they balance each other, actually, in my opinion. And so I always think you also have to be really grounded when you do this work. It's very easy to feel like, oh, you're kind of in this like space the
Well,
whole
the
time,
famous drifters.
right? No, and you're really not. You actually have to be very, very grounded. And the more you do that, the stronger things get. And so
It's
it's good, right?
I work a lot of I love really. I'm making fun. I adore working with beginners in meditation.
And
I'm
so
not
like,
anymore a big fan work with advanced people. Really seeking beginner groups. I love it so much. But there's a lot of they started some ways where it's bad meditation. They're just spinning and spinning and spinning, and they're feeling so God knows much. But as
for,
you said, if they're not properly grounded, yeah,
yeah,
they're spinning and spinning and flying and whatever out of body. Oh, congratulations. But what is it good for? Where will it lead you? Yeah, you
right,
feel like a king, but it ain't gonna go anywhere, right?
right.
So
Right.
if you don't put it in, take it from the ground up. And this hard work takes forever.
Right.
And it's not, it's not 30 seconds
No, it's not.
Instagram clip.
It is,
So
and I think it's helpful to say that to people, right? Like anything, if you want to be, like I always say to people, like if you want to be healthier, you have to take the actions to be healthier. And most of the time, it takes discipline, and it really takes changing habits. And I think it's the exact same thing with meditation and dreaming, right? There's a level of work to it. And also, I think a level of being disciplined, right? Showing up when you maybe don't feel like showing up, when it's easier to just go, oh, okay, like not today. Those are the days that you tend to need it most, actually. And it really helps to just make it like a habit. That's why I think dream teachers will often say, the dream teachers that I work with and know, right? They'll say, like, just write down anything, even if it's 3 sentences in the morning. It's better than not doing it because you're just committing to the practice. And it's the same thing. Like you show up on the mat, even if you don't feel like it. And if it's a good day or a bad day, it's totally irrelevant. You're just showing
yes,
up,
irrelevant.
right? And so I feel like I think that to me in my own life has been one of the most helpful things to recognize is it's like, oh, okay, wait, that's actually the breakthrough. That's really the room that you can do that for yourself, and things start to open up because you begin to trust yourself more. I trust myself more now because I can do that. And it really helped. But, you know, each to their own. Yeah.
It's amazing. Let's have a little bit more time. And you started that about helped you a lot. Give us a couple of minutes about personal growth that you had with it. What led you? You talked about chakras and so forth. Said it's complicated. Well, I can take complicated. Try me. So,
I
in
can believe you say complicated. Actually, it's probably, I'm sure I have a lot of things that I could learn from you, right? I just feel like sometimes when I feel like it gets into a very complicated space, sometimes it's easier to just go back to the basics, right? Like you were saying, most children, actually, I think that's what we were kind of saying. Most children can naturally lucid dream. They can naturally have out of body experiences, right? They know how to do these things naturally. I believe we all know how to do these things naturally, and we're taught to kind of forget them because we don't, it's not like we go to school and then at school you have a class every day dedicated to becoming like centered or to learning how to meditate or learn how to, which would be very, very helpful in my opinion, right? If schools did this.
if they would just do sport every day in school, it would be
Right.
already like an explosion of goodness. If they
Right.
maybe sometimes would prepare their own meal, don't have to be
Yes.
dangerous, but touch some tomato and cut
Yeah.
it, if it's not too
Really.
dangerous to use a knife in our modern days. But
Right.
this would be enough for me. I don't need them to meditate. I don't need them to breathe.
Right.
Just anything that's body
Mine,
related
yeah,
and doing it with friends, like three of them must together today prepare the breakfast and just make a bread with butter. I don't care for the rest of the class. This
kind
would
of.
be a spiritual explosion.
I agree. We've forgotten basic practices, right? Like you were talking about earlier with, your wife will phone her friend or her sister, and then they phone the grandmother, and that's the community. Kids wake up and they have friends, and they make food, and they become mindful of like, oh, okay, number one, like this is good for me, but also like being in your body, recognizing the connection. You've already solved so many things. So we're really trying to help sometimes societies that are a little bit unwell. And I think like actually if they just taught maybe like awareness around, okay, when you're dreaming, like I have a lot of clients from all over the world that will send me messages. My kid is really afraid to go to sleep. The bed shakes. They feel like they're falling into the bed. They have all these experiences. And actually, they're really normal. They're really normal experiences. Most people just don't know that because we don't talk about it. We've forgotten to talk about it. And the cultures that remember, they've done that through oral tradition. They've shared the practices through speaking in the family systems. And so we kind of have to like, okay, if we've had a gap in between whatever family line for whatever reason, the reason to me doesn't matter. It's just bring it back. It's actually really easy to do. And that's what I love about dreaming. It's what I love about meditation or mindfulness. You can go on a walk outside and just walk barefoot and bring your attention to what you're seeing, what you're smelling, how your body feels, and that changes everything, right? And it's simple. It's simple actually at the end of the day. It's like it's hard, but it's simple. It's the same with dreaming. You're doing it. It's simple. Don't overthink it. But
Uh,
you have to be aware. You have to want to do this to recognize that there's value in it.
all right, this is so crazy cool. I mean, we are talking here about dreaming, and everybody thinks it's like dream. And you talk so much about reality and real and go in the body and ground yourself and take it. This is the complete opposite of what we
Right.
would use the term dreaming. You're a
Yeah.
dreamer. He's a dreamer,
Right.
and you talk about the total opposite. It's like it's your voice. So the whole word dream seems to be counterproductive. The way
Yes.
you explain it is on a total different.
Way of being. It's a way of being. And I think that's something that's really, I find has been something that's been very meaningful to me in my work because I don't even like the words altered consciousness or altered states of consciousness. It kind of implicitly means, well, it's different. It's other than, right? But it's actually not. All you're doing is you're going, okay, usually I'm perceiving the world in this way, right? And then all of a sudden, you're just shifting your awareness. The same thing like with mindfulness. You're going outside, you can walk on the same path every single day and see the same things. And then the minute you're like, okay, I'm going to be here, I'm going to walk, I'm going to see things for what they are, you see something totally different or you experience it totally differently. It's the same thing in dreaming. Instead of walking asleep, you walk with your mind open and you're
Right.
awake, right? So it's literally like to me, it's mindfulness in sleep and dreaming, and the same mindfulness in waking life must be brought through. And actually, if you're mindful in waking life, you're dreaming, it's a very good trigger for lucid dreaming. And so like that's to me, it's very important. The connection is really important.
Now I'm throwing back to you. You said meditation in school. Now I'm saying dreaming classes in school.
I agree.
I actually think it will work easier if it
Yeah.
would be part of the English language to write an essay based on your dreams.
Right.
And if some teachers would have, if you would maybe write one day a book about children and dreaming, or educators incorporating dreaming in essays,
Yeah.
why would it not be a great thing? Why must it be meditation in school? Why cannot an English
Yeah.
teacher who has your little bit background knowledge read your book about that specific background says, well, let's look at here the class and look what is there on the subconscious, what is here, and let's put it into an essay. What would be wrong with that?
Nothing, in my opinion. I think it'd be very healing actually for the teachers and for the children. That's my feeling of it. Maybe we have someone listening who will listen to this and go and do that. That would be cool.
I think it would be very cool. Actually, I would love it a lot.
Yeah.
I would be so happy if my daughter had this opportunity
Yeah.
to be respected by the society or what you actually feel or what your subconscious is telling to you. And also, it would be a great way for schools to see maybe what's hidden or what's inside in a creative way. As you said, Google was dreamed up,
Right.
so why not part of the drawing class? Draw your dream or something like it
Right.
doesn't have to be every day or like 3 times a week, but once in a while that we again here it's okay to dream. It's not a shameful thing. It's not a
Exactly.
dreamer thing. It's
Yeah.
actually like a language we have here. The more I listen to you, it sounds to me like I again supposed to learn one new language.
Yes. Funny. Literally on my website, I say dreams are the language of the soul. That is the language you are learning, in my opinion. It's the soul and the subconscious together. And so it's literally that it's just a language. And the more you learn to speak, the more you hear it and the more it communicates with you. So it's bi-directional. And it's very much like if people often, when they'll sometimes have a spiritual awakening and one of the maybe they haven't been open and then all of a sudden it happens, and what tends to happen is they will have a lot of signs come up in waking life, right? Like, but very coincidentally, like they'll say something to a friend and they'll talk about something like a dragonfly, for example, and then they'll get to work and maybe like a brief at work will have an image of a dragonfly, or they'll watch a movie or something, but it comes out of the blue. And then they start to recognize, like, that's so strange that I've had these three synchronicities of this one thing come up. And that kind of tends to wake people up. And that tends to make them think about life in a slightly different way or feel more supported, right? To know that maybe everything we're seeing on a very tangible level isn't everything that there is. And so it's a
Well,
language,
we're
right?
going
It's the language of what you see in the waking life. And in dreaming, it's the same thing. You're just learning what the symbols mean, right?
we're coming a bit closer to my world when we see what's
Right.
there and not there, and then we finally come a little bit closer to me.
Oh,
But
great.
I love so much what you've said about the language on this simple level. And maybe for me, it's easiest right now to understand everything through the eyes of children. It helps me a lot to have understood you today. I think, or what I really learned today is was really strongly connected through the eyes of children. That helped me for whatever reason to connect with your subject and thinking as a parent, oh, I could give my kid one more language.
Right.
That sounds cool,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
sounds like that sounds like something like, yeah, that's something I want to commit. I mean, I'm bringing her to, I don't know, soccer. I'm bringing her to this. We're going ice skating, you know, and to just a little bit be helpful to ask every morning, come on, let's write down. And it will just need very little effort, most probably
Exactly.
get the ball rolling.
Yep.
It sounds like, super dad is coming. Let's, you know, let's
Right.
let's do it. So this was very helpful for me
I mean,
to
I'm
go
glad.
into your world from I must start from some point to understand.
Yes. Right.
So this was for me great. And we're coming slowly towards the end, but you have a couple more minutes if you feel like, because I can see a lot of people now out there said, I maybe have this problem, I might have that problem. Can you share maybe one story of one of your client where to see the usefulness, maybe to round this up any way you feel
Mm.
like to bring us to the end to this podcast? Because I learned already too much. So I'm just let talk for a couple of minutes.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, by the way. I feel like a good dream that I could share is I've had, and it's actually, I'm just trying to think which one to use. I had
Well,
a,
well, you think I will tell. Down there, you find the links to the books. You will find information here on this podcast, and I have to say it later. It was so amazing, this conversation. Regroup me for a moment, and I'll make the marketing part.
well, thank you so much. Well, I feel like one of the main things that people share with me, I've had lots of people come and tell me, like, I'll have dreams of my teeth falling out or something happens to my teeth. And a lot of the time, it's one of the most common dreams that people dream of worldwide, right? And I was invited onto a podcast when the book launched way back. And the host said to me, she said, oh, I Googled because I Googled what my dream meant before I was going to get on with you because I don't pay attention to my dreams, but I kind of want to know what you think about it. She said she would always have these dreams throughout her life where she wouldn't have enough teeth in her mouth, and it would be very hard for her because she just didn't have enough teeth. And it would make her feel very stressed. And sometimes the dream would be quite horrible, like she would be trying to brush her teeth and her gums would bleed. So it wasn't like a great experience for her. And she said, I Googled it and I saw that they said teeth dreams mean anxiety. Do you agree with this? And I said, sometimes I think it can be that because you might be grinding your teeth in your sleep and it can be that. But I said, it actually sounds like something a lot more for you. And it sounds like when I think about teeth, I think about nurturance. And I think about if we don't have our teeth, we can't really eat and then we can't feel full. And I said, so I would think about, well, how well am I taking care of myself? And then she said, oh my word. She said, I struggled with an eating disorder my whole life. My whole life, she said, I've had this eating disorder and I always dream of teeth. And she said, when she finally got help and overcame her eating disorder, right? She then had dreams where she had too many teeth in her mouth. And she could then, she had the opposite problem. And she said, "Well, then what do you think that can mean?" And I said, "That is the psyche's way of showing you that you haven't quite found that exact balance where you just feel like you don't have to think about it anymore, where you can just eat and it's not a thought about whether you're eating something, like it's a good bad thing or a bad thing, where it's just eating. It doesn't have to be something." And so the reason I'm sharing this story with you, right, is that I'm hoping that anyone who's listening to this just know that your dreams are so personal to you that even if you read an interpretation online or if you do chat GBT, if it doesn't feel right for you, then it probably isn't right. You're the greatest authority on your own dreams. Then your dreaming mind knows how to speak to you. You just have to think about it a little bit. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes.
And thank you so very much. We're all
Thank
super inspired now. I can tell you that. And let's hope some educators been watching as well.
Who
Thank
knows?
you so much. I'm looking forward for your new book, and I'm looking forward to a book that will come about children in some moment. And but
Maybe you'll
more,
write it,
but more, the the world needs your knowledge. We all need to again find magic in our life. That's what I very much start to believe these days. Thank you so very much, and I hope to
Thank you.
see you
So
again.
thanks for having me.